Hello, I am Ron Baker, and this is Empowered at Last. I am so glad to be beginning this new series. I laugh when I said the word be, because I was just recording this first episode, and somehow in my house, a bee was flying around my head. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with the power of animals, the essence of animals, what people call animal medicine. But if you know about the energy of the bee, their gift and message is how to work together, how to come together where every member of the colony does their part to create a thriving colony. Well, I have no idea how a bee got in my house, but I am telling you, it's exactly what I want to talk about today. So, thank you, universe. I'm calling this first episode, which is an introduction to me and what this new series will be. Now I'm going to giggle every time I say the word be. So, I'm here to talk about an intimate conversation about life. How to deepen that conversation, how to come together like a colony of bees, because we need one another to deepen a conversation about solutions in our world. Starting here and then moving out into the world, I believe that we need that focus, that safe place to come together more than any other thing. We need a clear education about how to tap deeper layers of our potential. We need tools that allow us to begin creating the solutions, the enhancements that we want to see in the world right here in ourselves. And that is exactly what I do. For the last 25 years, I've been teaching a unique process of self-empowerment that allows a person to know themselves so much more fully, to nurture themselves so much more fully, and how to connect to a core of self that allows each person to blossom into more and more of their potential. Change can either be scary or change can be empowered. Now, I think we can all agree that we live in a world that is in an unprecedented time of change. If you just look at the last 30 years, we have probably shifted more and expanded more in the last 30 years than in our entire recorded history. So let's just say more in 30 years than in 3,000 years. Well, when expansion takes place, it doesn't just create the benefits. It doesn't just open us to greater technology and greater breakthroughs and greater discoveries about potentials. It also opens up what is not working, the depths of life and the depths of self and the depths of the systems of our world, to reveal the potential and the wounding. Every one of us is made up of greatness and potential and certain wounding or lessons that we're here to work through. I think this is a profound time for us to all be in, if we know how to create empowered change, transformation, enhancement, rather than getting caught up in fearful change. Change is not something, it seems to me, that most people have learned to embrace and take charge of and move toward and become innovators and inspirations, just even in their own lives. That is exactly what this conversation is going to be about. How to get to know self, how to tap the deeper potential. Most people, if you grew up like me, never had a conversation about self. I went to 20 years of school No one ever taught me a single course that had to do with me. I was learning a bunch of facts and some skills, and those were great. But what is the top priority of our lives? Self and one another. What is the good of having all these skills and information unless we learn about self and about each other? How to create more meaningful lives. That is what this podcast is going to be. I'm going to talk about every facet of life. We are physical, mental, emotional, sexual, spiritual beings, and most of us have so little education in how we grew up that we end up just going through the motions. We end up just trying to create the structure, thinking that somehow we'll be fulfilled if we just do those things. We can't be fulfilled from outer structures. We are fulfilled inwardly as an experience of life. But if you're like me, nobody ever talked about how to focus on the experience of life, or how to deepen the experience, enhance the experience, how to trust creating intimacy in our lives, starting with self and then moving out to create intimacy with others in our lives, as well as the situations of our lives. There are a lot of podcasts that have begun a conversation, and tons of them, I love what's happening, I love what's being said, but tons of them are focused more on improving the quality of the outer moves and the outer structures and building careers and becoming entrepreneurs. And I have been listening and I have been enjoying the conversation. But I want this to now deepen the conversation about self and about the world and about what's happening in the world and how to create solutions and enhancements in the world. So I was recently watching Al Gore's movie, An Inconvenient Truth, and then just recently the sequel came out. For those of you who may not know, An Inconvenient Truth is about our planet and about how our planet is also in crisis. The choices that we're all making and not knowing how to take responsibility for are creating an impact in our world. Whether you believe in global warming or not, all the scientists seem to believe in it, all the signs are there, but whether you believe in global warming or not, you can look around the world and see that there are so many things out of balance, so many things that are even pushing the edge of crisis. Well, I happen to believe that the unprecedented change that we're in has been a cycle that we've lived, and then a time of interruption, a time of evaluating from the pressure that builds up that says, this approach is no longer working. It can't take you further. It can't survive. You need to make some shifts. This is exactly like the cycles of our lives. When we reach one point in life and more of us wants to awaken, or there are deeper needs, or it's time to move out into our adult lives, we have to interrupt just being in our adolescent, our child, our play, our fun, to add a deeper level of responsibility. Now that doesn't mean now my life's gonna suck. It equals now I'm going to take responsibility for deepening my life, for expanding my life, for enhancing the quality of my life. And I believe that's exactly what's happening on the planet. And yet, can you imagine if we reach that point when we're about to move out into adulthood and we don't wake up and we go, no, I'm just going to do my adolescent thing? It wouldn't work out so well. We would come crashing into reality and the fact that we're not making choices that sustain a healthy foundation for our lives. And I believe that's exactly what's happening on the planet. I believe she has begun, the planet Earth, she has begun to shake and to reveal that if we keep making the same choices and don't wake up and deepen ourselves into an adult, empowered reality, we're going to be in trouble sooner and sooner and sooner, meaning it's accelerating. If you watched Al Gore's film, An Inconvenient Truth, which came out, I believe, about 12 years ago, he said, we're in trouble. The choices we're making, just this one set of choices that we're making, which are releasing all of this carbon dioxide into the air and wasting so much energy and just going, oh, it's okay. Life has always been great. I can just have as much as I want. We need to take responsibility for sustaining and giving back to the planet. So I digress. He said all this carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere is creating an impact that is raising the temperature on the planet, which is melting the ice caps, which is raising the ocean, which is messing up the ecosystem, which is causing tons of environmental challenges. Well, 12 years ago, that got a bunch of traction and attention. And people began to make some small shifts and changes. Only you can evaluate what choices that you adjusted that set you up in a more responsible way. Well, I noticed that An Inconvenient sequel, which just came out in these last months of summer 2017, didn't get so much traction. I didn't hear people talking about it in the same way, and that's because the acceleration has moved closer and closer. It's in our faces. He showed in his film Miami streets underwater, exactly like he had stated would happen. If you think back a few years ago to the hurricane that hit New York City and flooded into the streets, my very own friend living in Lower Manhattan had to flee up several stories because the ocean came all the way in her street, filled up the basement and the lobby of her building, and everybody was trapped above. Everything that Al Gore was saying would happen. The point of this introduction is not to talk about global warming. The point is we are in a time of unprecedented change, and the pressure of what has been from our accumulated, let's just go ahead and stick with the metaphor of adolescent choices, are not serving us. We need to wake up into adult empowered choices. Now, this is not as simple as it sounds where you go, oh, okay, of course I'm going to wake up and these are the choices I'll make. I was just putting them off. Most people are not clear, what choices do I make? Do I just change my light bulbs and hope that everything will get better? No. Changing light bulbs to high efficiency light bulbs is just a symptom of a deepening of self that needs to take place. I am willing to take responsibility for what is pressured and out of balance. That needs to start here. So many people that I've talked to, whether they have tuned into the planetary shifts that are happening or not, so many people have said to me in the last handful of years, I don't know what's happening in my life. I just know that what I was doing is no longer working. I'm not satisfied. I'm frustrated. I know that's not working, and I've even let go of various structures. I just don't know what's coming next. A lot of people feel that they no longer want what was, but they don't know what the new is going to be yet. This middle ground is a crucial time. It can easily put people into fear and try to cling on to the old familiar. It can also be a time of simply realizing, as a wake-up call, this is not working. I need deeper solutions. but I don't know where to look for deeper solutions. I don't know how to create them. And this is the conversation that I want to deepen right here. Solutions, education about self. For instance, are you aware that there are 3 distinct levels of consciousness that are in your body that you carry around every day? The first stage is what I call child consciousness, and when it gets wounded and we get caught and trapped in fear, shame, and judgment to a great extent, because we didn't get education about self, then it becomes survival consciousness. And even if we grow into the second ring, which is adult consciousness, we don't move from survival consciousness to empowered adult consciousness just because we grow into adult bodies. Just look at our world and you will see that it is so. We've been stuck in the adolescent choices that haven't created the deeper solutions we now need to move into. That's stage number 2. We also have a third ring of consciousness, which is called soul consciousness. Now, a lot of people throw out that information, but what is so important to understand is that we cannot grow into soul consciousness or even adult empowered consciousness until we face the wounding that we've carried around that holds us like a child or an adolescent in the limits because of our missing education about self, about value, about nurturing, about how to create truly meaningful lives. This conversation is not just a nice idea. It's kind of a vital or crucial need that we all face. And I am so happy to say that for the last 25 years, teaching people this process of self-empowerment I mentioned has been happening at my School of Self-Mastery in New York City, as well as in workshops around the world. I've also led 15 worldwide events from major centers or energy centers on the planet like Egypt, the Great Pyramid of Egypt, or the Potala Palace in Tibet, or Machu Picchu in Peru. 15 journeys. Why do I bring this up? Because I've had a chance to see so much of the world and to see that everyone in the world is being impacted by these shifts that are taking place, and everyone needs a deeper education about self. I also know from having created those 15 worldwide events that people are responding when there is a clear destination, a clear intention, a clear focus to try and move into the solutions and the enhancements. We gathered millions of people around the world for these 15 worldwide events that were focused on the planet moving into empowered consciousness and beginning to download the potential of our true greatness in soul consciousness. We now have to learn how to integrate those energies into our lives, which is, how do I resolve the wounding and the warring and the conflict and the stress inside myself? So in this conversation, I am thrilled to be able to bring you 25 years of success. Success at what? Success at creating transformation in people's lives. This is not just a great idea or concept. I have literally watched, not only in my own life, but from thousands of other people coming together with this approach to resolve this center core of self, the wounding that keeps us stuck in childish adolescent choices, where we really might want more, but we don't know how to do more. We have to learn how to nurture and resolve ourselves, how to value ourselves, how to show up in a deeper, adult, responsible way. And when we do this inside ourselves, the potential of coming together, back to my story about bees and coming together in a colony of bees, when we all come together, work together, it becomes exponentially powerful. That is the opportunity that stands before us. When we have a clear education about self, about what the goals are, about what is possible, and have the tools that allow us to create that inner transformation, life gets better and better and better. How many people do you know who say, "Oh my goodness, my life gets better and better and better. I trust it. I'm in the flow of that kind of process"? I'm here to tell you that is entirely possible. It is not an idealistic fantasy. Not at all. It can be so much simpler than most of us have ever thought. So that is the conversation I'm going to be beginning here. And I want you to get involved in the conversation. I want you to know this is a safe place to come, not only to be educated, to be nurtured, but also to be heard. How in the world can we create the change and the enhancements in our world if we don't start a conversation that involves you and me? So many people say, "Who am I? What can I do? What could I?" I'm here to say, you are the hope for the future. You, an individual, with another individual, with more individuals. I wish I had more hands at the moment. That is possible. That's what makes us powerful. And when we're in wounding, when we're trapped in this survival consciousness, I don't care how successful our bank account or our career might be, we feel separate and alone. We do not feel fulfilled. But that is entirely possible. So obviously I can go on and on and on, and I look forward to one step at a time. But please reach out to me. Reach out and let me know what you want me to talk about, what you want to explore, what's important to you, not only about self, but about the world and what's happening in the world and the crazy that is accelerating in the world. Why is all that crazy happening? Because all of this acceleration that's happening in our world is also happening inside our bodies. The outer toxic energy, the outer buildup of pressure is also happening right here. So many people trapped in anxiety, stress, and even panic. Well, this movement of the planet is going from one stage to the next. It's not just going to magically go away. How many times have you said in the last years, "Oh my gosh, that was the most intense year ever"? No, this was. No, this was. We are shifting from one stage of evolution on the planet to the next. And the potential is huge. But we have to learn how to resolve and nurture. I have a vision that I want to put out with this first episode. A vision of 1 million proactive nurturers. What do I mean by that? People who show up for themselves and then for one another. People who show up and learn how to resolve the inner core of self in very specific, clear ways. I'm telling you it's entirely possible because of the thousands of people I've already been involved with who have done this and are in a process of continuing that. I also know the impact on community and the fact that this community of people is like a healthy family. And we can come together and be so powerful. We can support one another in beautiful, beautiful, clear ways. You must show up for yourself in some way. And this is a powerful, clear way that you can show up and deepen that conversation. So reach out to me. There will be all kinds of opportunities going forward. I'll be doing Facebook Lives, answering questions and talking to you directly. I will be putting out a weekly video on this series, a weekly podcast, Empowered at Last with Ron Baker. So either reach out to me through my website, ronbaker.net, not com, ronbaker.net, or go and join the podcast, Empowered at Last with Ron, and become a part of the Facebook group, Empowered at Last with Ron. Let's create a safe place to create profound enhancements, starting with self, joining together, and changing our world. 1 million proactive nurturers. I know it's possible. I live that it's possible. I look forward to you becoming inspired into knowing and experiencing that that is exactly what is possible. So I thank you for the B that came in at the beginning, and we can become a healthy global community of individuals, unique in their interests and approaches, but learning how to value self and one another. Entirely possible. So I'm going to be quiet, and I'm going to close with a statement that I will use each time if I remember. 3 simple things. Choose well. Live fully. And by all means, be good to you. I hope to see you soon.